So we are joined today by Lars from Best in Tesla. Easily the best Tesla channel out of Europe, but I would say the best weekly news channel at that, for that matter, of any sort. I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. Lars, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Very good.
I'm so glad you could join me. I've wanted to do this for a while. We need a European perspective. A lot of Americans forget that there's a market outside the U.S., so let's start with the basics because I don't know how far to dumb it down. What is a Europe?
Well, it's where the Americans go to when they really want to travel. You know, not just go to the Caribbean islands and stuff like that. Yeah, the Virgin Islands. You come to Europe and you visit Paris. Yeah. I live in a little country called Denmark. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the capital of Sweden or anything. It's a country. It's a real country.
Yeah. You don't say. And you're sure of that?
Yeah, pretty sure of that.
So, interestingly, and a lot of American viewers don't necessarily realize this, EV adoption in the U.S. is very far behind China and Europe. And in Europe, I've got some theories as to why, and maybe you can help me provide some context to them. How does the cost of an EV in Europe compare to the cost of a gasoline-powered car?
Well, they are actually becoming pretty decent. Like if you want, the Tesla Model 3 or something similar in ICE vehicles like a BMW 3 Series, you would pay at least the same price, if not more. But the savings is a lot. I save about $4,000 a year on having my Tesla Model 3 compared to a Master 3 that I had before.
Wow.
So even though that was a much cheaper car to buy, well, I'm only 2 years away from this Tesla Model 3 being as cheap as my Master 3. And I'm probably going to keep it longer, so in the end it's going to be cheaper. So, and we got pretty decent cheap cars as well. We got the Dacia Sprint, I believe it's called, a little car from Dacia that is only 130,000 Danish crowns, about $20,000, a little less than $20,000. So, and that is Danish prices, and we are probably like 40% or 30% more expensive cars over here than in the US. So it's actually fairly cheap. That would probably just cost something like, $14,000 or $15,000 in the US. We got cheap electric cars already, but not good performing electric cars. Not that cheap.
So the retail price is not bad compared to traditional cars. What about the cost of juice versus petrol?
That is much cheaper, I would say. When I fill up my Tesla, it's about it's just the prices have of course gone up at the moment. So it's a little over 3 kroner, so about $50 for 1 kilowatt hour of charging at a Tesla charger. So still pretty cheap. So to fill up my Tesla is much cheaper than to fill up for example, on my Master 3. But I would also get a little more range. So it's not hugely cheaper when you go to the filling stations, but it's much cheaper when you just charge at home. Mm-hmm. That's where the benefits really shine. Then it's probably half price or something, or maybe 60 or something like that, 60%.
And what about subsidies in Europe? I know you can speak directly to Denmark, but you probably have some insight to the subsidies offered in other European countries as well that may impact cost of acquisition and ownership.
Yeah, we have a lot of tax on cars in general here in Denmark, for example, and we don't have as much tax on EVs as we do on ICE cars. So that is why they're also a bit more imperative, but they have been raising the price a bit on the EVs as well. But I think what they did in Norway was they actually raised the price of the ICE cars instead. So it was not that the EV was subsidized or incentive on the EVs to make them cheaper. They just made petrol and anything else much more expensive. So,
well, there's the carrot and the stick, and when you run out of carrots, all you got left are sticks. I've been in negotiations where people come at you and they're like, so look, in terms of carrots, we got none, and in terms of sticks, we've got this floppy noodle, and then there's no debate, there's no negotiation. You got to do better, guys. Another thing that I think is moving adoption forward is that Europe has more models than the U.S. market available. Can you talk about some of the different options that are in Europe that you think are helpful and good and cool?
I think we have like at least 250, if not getting close to 300 different EV models here in Europe. So it's a lot. But of course, the Audi e-tron comes in 12 different versions. So I think that they also, there's the e-tron Sportsback and the e-tron Quattro and the e-tron Quattro Sportsback and all that different kind of versions. But we have like 250 different EV versions. And I think why the adoption is going so quickly right now is because people are right now buying also the second car. They still have the gasoline car, but their second car is EV, and they kind of getting used to the whole EV thing, and you can get really affordable EVs now. I would say it's not like the cheap ones, and it's of course new cars, everything. So, but you can get the MG ZS or something, the Chinese Giga car, and that is pretty decent priced here in Denmark. And the new version that just has come out is actually quite good range. It's not, Tesla level, but it's still pretty good range. It's over 440, if I remember correctly, kilometers of range on a fully charge. So it's not bad. And I think most people buying EVs in Denmark right now is mostly people in houses. So they just charge at home. So the charging speed is not that fast, but it doesn't really matter because you charge overnight. So I think these affordable EVs are winning some momentum here in Europe. But I think in general also that Europeans really want to go green. They're very much into renewables and environmentally friendly and good for the animals and all this kind of stuff. So I think EVs just appeals to Europeans that want to show that they're doing good things for the environment. Because even though EVs are growing and MG is selling good, and this e-Spring, the Dacia Spring is a very cheap one. Well, they're just 250 models that sells pretty well, and then there are still Tesla that sells a lot of electric cars now, and they're giving me. I just thought of it today when I took a drive to pick up two of my kids. It's only like a 5-10 minute drive, and I saw, I don't know, I'm probably exaggerating, but between 15 to 20 Teslas just on that little drive in my city here. So they are becoming very common thing because they can make them in volume, where the others are still, even though they have some good cheap ones, they can't make them in volume. And I think the Chinese are actually winning in over here, because they're coming with the affordable ones. Someone like NIO is coming with the more expensive one, want to battle Tesla on that front. But the more affordable one, like the MG and Airway E5 or something, I can't remember the name. Airways, I think it's called. Also a car like the MG. But that's seems like a really decent car. I have a neighbor that got one, and also about these above 400 kilometers of range, so they're pretty decent cars, and they are getting much better quickly. So I think the Chinese are very welcome here in Europe because they can actually come and meet some of all this demand there is for the EVs here.
The additional models, the better pricing, in some cases subsidies or lack of punishments, and for the what else factor, there's the desire to go green. Anything else we're missing that makes Europe such a strong market for EVs? What about the fact that cities are closer together and long range isn't necessarily as critical as it might be in a bulky boy like the US's of A's?
Yeah, I think that actually has a great deal to do with it, because many people would probably think that WLTP 400 kilometers. Like, I can't even go from LA to San Francisco. But if you do that in Denmark, you drive out of the country. So it's a bit different here, and the countries are smaller. So I think for people that just use the car to drive around here in Denmark, pretty much all the cars that are here is almost good enough. There's, of course, some very low range, but most of them, like the 420 kilometers or something, or just above 400 kilometers would be fine in this country, as long as you can do that, of course, because we have seen like something like the Skoda Enyaq when it's cold, because we also get some pretty cold winters in some areas here, and we have seen they can't really do like 220 kilometers in real life, even though they have a WLTP of over, I believe it's 500 and something, 560 or something there at that point. So, but yeah, I think we have some small countries, and it's also pretty wealthy countries, most of them in most part of Europe, so we can also afford the EVs as well.
Prosperity is nice to have.
Yes.
What types of models, what form factors, what styles of vehicle are you not yet seeing in EVs that you're waiting for?
The Cybertruck.
That is my next question. Vans are coming with the ID Buzz. I don't believe you've got very many options yet, but they're coming. Will the Cybertruck have a market in Europe if it can pass regulations?
I think it will, just because it's so different. I think, just like the Hummer, the original ICE Hummer, did find a market here in Europe. It was made smaller to fit the European roads, the Hummer. So maybe they have to do a smaller version. I'm not sure of that. But we do have the Ford F-150 here and stuff like that. So, but they are really much more used as a utility vehicle here in Europe. It's people that needs a pickup truck, when in the US it's just because people like pickup trucks and don't use a tow hitch and have a trailer like we do here in Europe. So the pickup truck is also your main vehicle in the US, I would guess.
There's already electric transit vans I've seen in Europe.
Yeah.
I don't know
and
how common they are,
but it's coming now. Ford is coming with the e-Transit as well. Yeah. And I think it's all going to be very welcomed here in Europe. But I think the pickup truck market is not as huge. So it's going to be exciting to see. But I think the Cybertruck is just so different. And, it's just created so big of a buzz all over the world. I think people is going to want that car as well. I know people has contacted me and said, I have ordered one. So I know some people are definitely want the Cybertruck.
So you think that looks different, huh? That's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Just a little bit.
It's going to really test markets is what it's going to do, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure if another manufacturer could have pulled it off apart from maybe Hummer.
Yeah. No, definitely not. People were laughing at it, but they're not laughing when they see the pre-orders, right?
So I know you went to Giga Berlin. Did you get inside?
No, didn't get inside, unfortunately. Couldn't get in. But, I went down to the opening party, the fair that was down there. Yeah.
What are your expectations? What are the expectations, you think, from others in Europe for Giga Berlin?
I think my expectations are very different from what the average person thinks, because not many people, keep themselves up to date that even know there's a factory opening down there for Tesla. They just look at electric cars, and everybody knows Tesla now, so they're looking at that. But I think it's going to be a huge deal here in Europe, because it's a big family SUV, not too big like the Model X and very expensive and stuff, but it's I wouldn't say affordable because it is quite expensive here in Denmark, but still more affordable, and with the savings we do in gas and maintenance and stuff like that, it is getting to where, what we would pay for a Volkswagen station car, and station cars are very popular here as well, and big SUVs, so it's not that expensive compared to what is here, but it's just a perfect form factor for families, and I think it's gonna sell like crazy because it's also it's just the top of the line of the electric car with range, charging speed, and then they have all the software that people also like. So I think it's gonna be doing very well. And this charging network here in Europe is fantastic, as it is in the US. I have been driving up from Norway, and I have also been driving all around in Europe on a 3-week road trip with my family, and that was absolutely no problem. They were just everywhere. We even, we didn't have to stop at every Tesla supercharger because there were so many, so we skipped a few on the way. But I think Tesla just have the whole package in a very well-looking car, and it's the form factor that people want. It is huge compared to many cars here, especially when we look at the trunk space, and that's something people care about. When there's a family that want to pack all their stuff to doing road trips in Europe or going skiing holidays or whatever people do. So that's pretty cool, and it can do tow hitch. Every Tesla Model Y have a tow hitch, and that is also I know, including myself, I don't buy cars without tow hitches because I bike a lot and pick up my kids from school in the car, and we sometimes bike down there, so I have to get the bike home as well. So we have a bike rack on the back of the Tesla pretty often. So it's just, in my opinion, a very perfect little family car that's going to be produced in volumes we have not yet seen here in Europe. And I think the old guys is not going to keep up with that. So I think
it's going to be difficult.
We're going to see it flood the European market is my expectation.
How is the brand of Tesla itself perceived in Europe? Is it considered a premium brand? Do people compare it favorably or unfavorably to the bigger legacy guys like BMW and Mercedes? And with Giga Berlin coming online, do you think it'll be perceived as a local brand?
Don't know if it's going to be perceived as a local brand. I think people will always look at it as an American car brand. But I think it helps with the issue of build quality and people thinking of, is it European made? I think that will help, that they know it's a car made in Europe. And even the people I talked to up in the store when the first Model Y was delivered, they also said they actually waited until the Berlin factory was online because, as I said, we like to go green, and it was a big deal for them that the car didn't have to be transported around the world in a ship for 2 months, but could just be transported 12 hours up, and boom, that was it. So that was a big deal as well. But
and premium, is it considered a premium brand?
Yeah, I think most people see it as a premium brand. That's, of course, the Tesla Bulls and the Bears, and they are probably seen as a very luxury brand, and some will say, it's crappy and bad paint job and all that old news we heard from Tesla back in the days that is still sticking around. But I think most people that are not so deep into Tesla just look at it as, that's a Tesla. Because I remember before I really became a Tesla guy, I remember people, when they saw a Tesla, also because they were very uncommon at that point, like, oh my God, that's a Tesla. So it was like, it was a premium car, and people thought it was cool, also because it was fast and it has this great software and was so different than everything else. So I think people see it as a premium brand, and I think BMW and Mercedes and stuff, people like those are going to be having a new kid in town that's not messing around.
I've seen a lot of people say, well, it's not luxury. It's certainly not luxury. And I say, well, no, it's not luxury, but it's premium. What is luxury to you? So to me, premium, the panoramic glass, that was unheard of 10 years ago. The technology package, that's premium. The speed, even out of the slowest models available, we're talking faster than Corvettes from 15 years ago for the slowest car they make. That's premium, my friend.
Yeah, like I used to say, is like technology is the ultimate luxury, for me anyway. I think I would much rather have, a car with great software that get updated all the time and have all these cool gadgets and ditches coming along and can do all kind of stuff, and the speed and can be upgraded as that as well. And compared to having hand-stitched leather on the steering wheel or something like that, that is premium and luxury for some people. For me, I don't really care about it, but I do care about the technology in the car, and that's where Tesla, in my opinion, is way beyond. But it's very different what people think of luxury, because I also hear, but it doesn't have massaging seat. I never thought of that as being a thing, you know. I never really cared about massaging seat. I get the massage from the pressure of pushing that accelerator.
That's right.
So,
you could just throw a couple walnuts behind your back, and when you go...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Lars recently did the most ill-advised and insane road trip I think that's ever been done, certainly on YouTube. Lars went into the Arctic Circle in the dead of winter in an EV. So I will put a link to that. I'll probably have some B-roll running from it right now, because it was, first of all, cinematically beautiful. It was beautiful. But it was compelling, it was interesting, and my question is, what possessed you to do it?
Yeah, that was fun to make, and thanks for the kind words about it, because it was a big job. But I just, there has been so much talk about EVs being bad in cold weather, and I live in a country that's pretty cold, and and I had no issue on it, and I have been on skiing holiday in the car and so on, and I made a talk about that, and I made a road trip around Europe showing everything what was okay, but I was still getting these comments about, but it sucks in bad weather. You can't do it in bad weather. And like, okay, I'm gonna push this car to how as much as I can. And the toughest thing I could think of was try to drive it up through Norway, also because that was the EV capital of the world. So that would be fun to see that and see how the charging network was doing up there, and then do it through the coast of Norway, because that is really some rough roads. It's not just, you know, a highway up through Sweden to North Cape, because you can do that as well. That would have been much easier. But I would really want to try to do the mountain roads and out in the coast, and then get up to where there is no light anymore. It's dark 2 months a year. It's completely dark. The sun doesn't rise up in the north part of Norway. So I thought that would be pretty cool to try to get to North Cape, the most northern tip of of Norway. So that was just really to try to push the car as much as I could. And that also meant that I wanted to do it for a little longer time, not just 1 day or 2 days, just straight up through Sweden and get to North Cape. But I wanted to do like 4, 5, 6 days, really pushing the car, driving all day long, supercharging, cold weather, all these things that people say you can't do that, and it can't charge really fast in cold weather. And yeah, I had no issue whatsoever. So, but really, really fun. I had issues with the snowstorm coming. That was a big. That was something different. The car
had issues with the sea storm as well.
Yeah.
So, for perspective,
exactly.
For Americans who don't understand northernmost climates, approximately how far is North Cape from Santa's workshop?
Well, when you come to Santa's workshop, you keep going for another 1,000 miles, and you're about there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually, when you come to the Arctic Circle, I think it's Fairbanks. That's a bit over the Arctic Circle, right?
I'm not sure. Fairbanks is pretty far north.
It's more north than Fairbanks, the North Cape. It is 1,000 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. So it's only about 2,000 kilometers from the North Pole. So very north.
Wow. So you are famous for, slapping your fans. Does that mean I get one? Do I get one?
Oh.
Oh, Lars, I appreciate you taking the time. I don't want to take up too much of your time. This has been very valuable, I think, because, again, there's a lot of perspective from Europe that we just don't get to see. And that's one reason I recommend your channel. And I am excited to have my weekly construction updates there, because they don't quite fit on my channel the way I'd like them to. So it is a lot of fun. And I tell you, man, there were so many people in Austin who were asking me, "Is Lars here? Is Lars here?" Because they know that I know you well, even though this is the first time we're actually talking.
Yeah. That's so cool.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, and appreciate you, Brian, for doing those videos. That's really, really cool. And keeping me up to date. So that's so awesome that you wanna help out with that. So and we can do some collaboration that way. It's really awesome.
So in the comments below, you guys, what did we miss or misunderstand? Leave your juicy wisdom and brilliance below. And stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you clever robots on the Flippity Flop. And as a reminder, I think we both have Patreons, don't we? You have one, right?
Yeah.
So if you need to see more footage from the Arctic Circle or even greater adventures, head on over